Beneath the calm blue surface of the Indian Ocean, a silent storm is brewing. Most of the world isn't paying attention, but this is where the future of global power is being decided. For decades, the Indian Ocean has been the world's highway, the route that connects the Middle East's oil, Africa's resources, and Asia's factories. Every ship that carries energy, goods, and technology must pass through these waters. And whoever controls this ocean controls the heartbeat of global trade. But now, two rising giants, India and China, are locked in a silent but deadly struggle to dominate it. What's unfolding here could determine who rules the 21st century. It started quietly. While the world focused on tensions in the Pacific and the South China Sea, India was laying its own invisible web across the Indian Ocean, from the Andaman and Nicobar Islands to the coasts of Oman and Mauritius. India began building strategic ports, radar stations, and naval outposts. Officially, these were for regional security, but in reality, they formed a powerful surveillance net capable of tracking every Chinese vessel crossing the ocean. Meanwhile, China was busy constructing its infamous string of pearls, a network of ports and bases stretching from Gwadar in Pakistan to Hambantota in Sri Lanka, and all the way to Djibouti in Africa. These pearls, China claimed, were for commercial use. But behind the cranes and container ships, the People's Liberation Army Navy had moved in. This is where India struck back, not through confrontation, but through strategy. Indian intelligence quietly began working with smaller nations, Maldives, Seychelles, Mauritius, offering them infrastructure, defense partnerships, and digital cooperation. Unlike China's debt-heavy loans, India's deals were flexible, human, and diplomatic. One by one, countries that had leaned toward Beijing began swinging back toward New Delhi. It was a geopolitical chess game, and India was several moves ahead. At the same time, India's navy underwent a silent transformation. What was once a coastal defense force has now become a true blue water navy, with aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines, and long-range surveillance drones. From space, Indian satellites now monitor Chinese fleet movements in real time. On the ocean's surface, Indian warships shadowed Chinese vessels as they passed through choke points like the Strait of Malacca. Beneath the waves, submarines armed with advanced sonar and indigenous missiles are quietly waiting. Not an open war, but a war of nerves, intelligence, and influence. China, on the other hand, underestimated how well India knows these waters. For thousands of years, Indian merchants, explorers, and navies have sailed these seas. India's control of key islands like the Andaman and Nicobar gives it a strategic advantage over one of the world's most critical trade routes. Nearly 80% of China's oil imports pass through these narrow channels. In any conflict, India could choke China's energy lifeline in a matter of days. Beijing knows this, and that is desperate to break free by building land routes through Pakistan and Myanmar. But those routes are vulnerable to crossing unstable regions, mountain ranges, and zones of conflict. What most people don't realize is that this rivalry isn't just military. It's also economic and digital. India has begun turning the Indian Ocean into a data ocean. Undersea cables connecting Asia, Africa, and the Middle East now pass through Indian-controlled routes. With digital infrastructure, satellite monitoring, and growing dominance in semiconductor and drone technology, India isn't just securing sea lanes, it's controlling the future flow of information and energy. China, for all its industrial might, is finding itself trapped in India's expanding digital and strategic web. And while China faces economic slowdown, shrinking exports, and rising debt, India's economy is accelerating. By 2030, India is projected to become the world's third-largest economy and the fastest-growing major power. Global investors are shifting away from China and pouring into India's booming markets. American and European companies are rerouting supply chains through Indian ports. The Make in India initiative has quietly begun replacing China's factory dominance. What is happening in the Indian Ocean is a reflection of this larger shift, a power transition unlike anything we've seen since the Cold War. But this isn't just about trade or influence, it's about survival. The Indian Ocean region is becoming the new front line of the global order. The United States, too, has taken notice. Washington's Indo-Pacific strategy increasingly depends on India as the central pillar. American aircraft carriers frequently train with Indian warships, and intelligence sharing between the two nations has reached historic levels. The Quad Alliance, India, Japan, Australia, and the US is effectively becoming the shield that contains China's maritime ambitions. Beijing's dream of dominating the Indo-Pacific is slipping further away, trapped by India's geography, diplomacy, and strategy. China's response has been subtle but desperate. It's trying to tighten its grip on the Indian Ocean through debt diplomacy, political influence, and even underwater surveillance drones disguised as research vehicles. But India's counterintelligence network has grown sharper. With digital tracking, human intelligence, and partnerships across the region, New Delhi is exposing China's hidden operations before they can take root. Every time China makes a move, India is already there, one step ahead, quietly cutting off the next pearl in Beijing's chain. What's even more fascinating is how India is doing this without open aggression. No loud threats, no military parades, just strategy, patience, and precision. It's the kind of subtle power play that's redefining modern geopolitics. While China's rise has been loud and visible, India's rise has been silent and strategic. The world is only now realizing that New Delhi has been building something far greater than military bases. It's been building influence, trust, and long-term alliances. By 2030, experts believe the Indian Ocean will become the world's most militarized and economically crucial zone. From spaceports to AI-driven submarines, the technologies that will define future wars are being tested here first. And India, not China, is emerging as the power with both regional dominance and global credibility. The era of quiet diplomacy is giving way to an age of silent dominance. So when we talk about the trap, it's not a metaphor. China is literally surrounded economically, digitally, and militarily. String of pearls has become India's net. The dragon's reach has been cut by the tiger's strategy. And as China faces growing domestic instability, India's calm, confident expansion is reshaping the world's most important ocean. The global powers know it. The US, Japan, Australia, and even Europe are aligning closer with India, not out of charity, but out of strategy. They see where the future lies, in a nation that understands the balance between strength and subtlety. As the world watches, the Indian Ocean is becoming the stage for a new kind of war, one fought not with missiles but with influence, data, and control. The world's next great power struggle isn't happening on land or in space. It's happening here, across the deep blue expanse of the Indian Ocean, where the waves may look calm. But beneath them lies a chessboard that could determine the future of the planet. And right now, India is the player setting the rules.